evening, lucky, lovely, fantastic, all the other L word people. Welcome back to Spill the Tea Lou for our 7 p.m. show. I had so many false starts there when I was waiting for that stream to go. I was waiting. It was like you're ready to go live and then the screen like froze. But here we are, and what would we be? What would this channel be if I did not have gremlins in my system after the start of the stream? However, good news or bad news, depending how you see it, I do in fact have my mic turned on for the start of this video, so I won't have to repeat the introduction, although there probably might be no harm in you not hearing some of the nonsense that I open these streams with. However, good evening. I hope you've all had a lovely day. As I mentioned earlier on, it's quite nice here in Ireland today. It has chilled down a little bit, but I am making the most of the heat before it probably goes away and lashes tomorrow. So, we have a lot to get into this evening. I did have a show planned, and then Ben Jacobs just went and dropped all sorts of crackers all over the place. We are going to get into that, despite the fact that I said literally yesterday I didn't want to be talking about transfer news. Ben Jacobs was having none of me and told me, well, not me specifically, told everybody, actually, we are going to have to talk about transfers. So hopefully PFC TV will be in the house for this one, because that was who asked me about the transfers the other day, and I was like, it's still the middle of the season, we're going to be talking about transfers all summer, don't want to be talking about transfers already. Ben Jacobs scuppered me, so I'm going to have to talk about them. But that's not what we're starting with, because what would we be if we didn't build suspense into the show? Dun dun dun. No, we have other things I want to talk about, a few things I want to round off. Obviously, we did our late night live for our reaction to the Champions League games yesterday. We were live at midday today. We had a little chat about the follow-up at Liverpool and the wee chap's injury with his finger, with Lang's finger. And we had to talk about a few different things with the Champions League, and obviously we did speak about the coefficient. So if you missed that and you're interested in the coefficient, feel free to go and check that out after this stream. However, there are a few other things I want to tidy up from the Champions League situations, so we are going to get stuck into that. However, I need to find a different word. I love that word. I just keep saying it. First of all, I want to talk to you guys. I see our Dave boy is in the house, who is bursting the bubble right out the traps, and he says no chance of Bruno G joining us. Mama would riot. She might. Guess is in the house. She's got the tea, real tea. Actual tea, not the gossip. I've got the gossip. Dave Boy saying hi to everybody. Marv is here with his champers. Yes, Marv, I am still looking and feeling energetic. It is a mix of cleaning product fumes and caffeine, but it seems to be working for me. Everybody saying hi to each other. Right on cue. Mama Flossie in the house. And ready to listen. I'm sure she's delighted to hear about this story again. But hopefully we are going to talk about it in a slightly different way than, yes, it's definitely going to happen, because I don't believe that to be the case. Luke is in the house. Lovely Luke, nice to see you. And everybody saying hi. Mama Flossie can confirm that she will, in fact, riot. That might make them think twice, because I would not want to mess with Mama Flossie. Now, the guys in the chat, you're all seasoned pros of the chat. I am sure you have all hit the like button, but just in case you were so excited to see everybody and you forgot, please do smash that button. Please share the video with your friends. Ye lot that are chatting there are all subscribed. If anybody's viewing and maybe hasn't entered into the foray of the chat just yet, please do subscribe. And let's get going. So we are going, first of all, to be speaking about Liam Rosenior. Again, no, I am not obsessed, not at all. However, do you remember before the first leg of Chelsea PSG, there was team news that was leaked, And we had a little chat. Remember, Kai was here and we had a little chat, and he said he didn't really mind, it doesn't really make that much of a difference. And I said, we used to have a leak in our club, probably more than one to be fair, but they all seem to have been plugged at the moment. I'm sure we might get some again in the future, but it felt like there was maybe a commonality between our leak and the leak at Chelsea. And then the leak reoccurred. So prior to the second leg against PSG, there was another leak off the team news. And so Liam Rosenior was asked about that in his post-match press conference. Marv, unfortunately, no, we are not speaking of the hand-washing advice. We're speaking about the people who are supposed to go onto the pitch and score the goals. But let's have a listen to what Liam Rosenior would has to say. So let's have a look here. As usual, guys, let me know if there's any problems with the sound, if you can't hear it, and yeah, we'll get him going.
Your team news has been leaked for the last couple of games.
Yeah.
Is that...
I can't even hear him, so probably you guys can't hear him. Can I make this louder? Is it me? Have I just turned my headphones off? Might just be me. It might be me. Okay, let us try that again, because it might just be I'm the problem.
Your team news has been leaked for the last couple of games.
Yeah.
Is that concern for you, and will you have an investigation to try to find where that's come from? You know?
Yeah, and it's not come from any place of malicious intent to me or to the team. We know where it's come from, and we've dealt with the situation.
Okay, so that won't happen again. Just another one. There was criticism.
Now, find that quite interesting. Guests let me know you guys hear him. Well, see, you guys hear him because you guys have your sound turned on. What I did was I put my headphones on my head, I turned my headphones on, and then I had the volume set at 0, which was highly intelligent of me. Clever, I know. There's a reason I talk so much. It's not because I'm clever. But yeah, so we could all hear him there. Now, there is more to this clip, but I just want to stop it there for a little second. So it's not malicious intent. Not at all. Never malicious when somebody leaks your team news to give the opposition an advantage, because that's the only thing it does. So I'm not sure how that could be not malicious, to be fair, especially if this person is somebody who was leaked previously and saw the consequences. But yeah, not malicious, of course, Liam. Boffman is in the house. Hello. He also says that they know who it was and that it has been dealt with. This is very interesting because they seem to have found the leak much quicker than Manchester United did. It took us a little while. We are slow on the uptake, but after 2 team news leaks, Chelsea have already found the culprit and resolved the matter. So I will be watching very closely to see if there is any further leaks of team news for Chelsea, because if you've resolved the issue and then it leaks again, that's going to be a problem. That's going to be an interesting one to see how they deal with that. But let's see what else has he got to say, because I can't remember.
Of you handing a note to Garnacho, towards the end of the game. What have you made of that?
I will always do my best in whatever circumstance for the team to perform at its best level, regardless of the result. Whether we're 5 goals down or 5 goals up. In that moment, we've just gone down to 10 men. I needed to change the system. I needed Moy Caicedo to go to right back. And rather than me scream and shout above a lot of people in the stadium, the best thing to do is to show him and get the note across to him. I'm aware, if I don't win at this football club as the manager, and if we don't win as a team, I'm very aware now that anything goes.
Does it surprise you that is being scrutinised by maybe ex-players? And how do you deal with criticism? Do you try and...
It doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect me. I'm aware of it. Of course, it's my job to be aware of what's being said about the football club, about my team. Am I surprised?
Yeah, I have to be honest. I hadn't seen much of this about the note. I didn't realise people were talking about this, and honestly I find that absolutely incredible. I mean, we see this all the time where they pass information via note to their players. He's hardly the first manager to do that. He has done some novel things. That's not one of them, so I actually can't even understand why that would be a topic, but apparently it is in some parts of the world. I was more interested in the leaks. And Dave Boy, as I say that, says, can we stop mentioning leaks? I'm on my 4th pint. You will be happy to know, Dave Boy, that is the end of the leaks. So hopefully you don't have a leak. Have I said leak enough times? Guess is saying I would do a Colleen Rooney and hand the suspects different pieces of wrong information and see which piece gets out. Then I know who it was. That is the way to do it, Guess. That is the way. I notes is in the house. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us. But following on from that, some happier news. And again, this is all just things that are sort of linked to Champions League matches, players, games that don't really make for like a video all on their own. So I'm just going through a heap of them here. We'll touch on them all, and then we will you know, get into the meat of things. Boffman is saying, Dave, you have mentioned beer, now I want one. So I'm going to hear a can cracking open shortly. Thanks for that, Dave boy. And iNotes is saying, Roberto, hands up, put the lineup down. Now, next thing is nothing to do with Chelsea or Leaks. You'll all be very pleased to know. I just thought this one was quite cute and I liked it. So, it is official. The Bodo Glimt striker Kasper Hoch has earned his first ever call-up to the Denmark national team. He registered 5 goals and 3 assists in the UEFA Champions League this season. Very well deserved. Isn't that lovely? And it goes to show, like Harold was saying, was it this morning, yesterday? Harold was saying, you know, he would like to see more of this level of team getting into the competition rather than having to fight each other, getting knocked out, and you're left with all the big teams again. And I suppose when you see stories like this, you understand the importance to these types of teams of getting their players in, getting their team in, and going as far as Bodo managed to go. It is now, at 25 years old, earned their striker his first call up for his country. So I just thought that was really, really nice and a happy story to come out of the Champions League. Another story coming out of the Champions League, and I see iNotes saying Hala Madrid there, and we are going to mention the Real Madrid keeper Thibaut Courtois because he is set to miss at least the next 6 weeks due to a thigh injury. The 33-year-old did not expect the issue to be major before tests on Thursday proved otherwise. Courtois started Madrid's Champions League last 16 leg against Manchester City on Tuesday, but was replaced by Andre Lunin at half-time. Madrid will be very, very relieved to know that they have such a good backup keeper in Lunin to be able to step into the breach, given where they are in their season. But obviously, that's a massive miss for Courtois. And I just thought it was very interesting because we did all talk about him going off at half time. And everybody sort of wondered, was it injury? Was it not? It was shown as injury on the little substitution sort of bar on the sofa score and stuff. But it's just very, very interesting to see that's what's happened. Now, 2 contrasting reactions to that piece of information. Guess has come in with, Lunin can do it. We're still bringing back the trophy. And Marv's reaction is, no Courtois, Madrid is done. Those are quite different reactions to that piece of information. iNotes is coming in saying Andre Lunin is quality. I have to say, from what I saw of him, and obviously this is based only on the Champions League, he was fantastic. I thought he did really, really, really well. And I think, you know, if you're going to have your second choice keeper playing, he's a good one to have. Marv is saying Bayern just lit up Atalanta and are now facing Madrid's backup. To be fair, it was Atalanta. They're not, like, Real Madrid's keeper isn't going to face as many shots as Atalanta's keeper did. Also, Lunin was very, very, very good. That's like people saying about United when we had Romero. Oh, they're only going to play the backup. Romero was sensational and good enough to be the first keeper at most teams. I think it seems to be the case of that with Lunin as well. So I think while they would obviously rather have their first choice, I don't think their world is going to end. But when we were talking about the coefficient earlier, and we were talking about the weighting and how the scoring works in the European football, and we talked about it covers not only the Champions League, but it covers the Europa League and the Conference League. We need the likes of Nottingham Forest, Palace and Villa to do well and continue, and once they do that, we we should be golden for the 5 spots. I still think we'll be golden for the 5 spots, but given how much hope we are pinning on these teams, I did find it quite interesting to hear what Vitor Pereira had to say about Nottingham Forest. Sorry guys, I shouldn't laugh because it is not funny, but if I'm a Nottingham Forest fan, I am absolutely fuming, okay? Now let's just bear in mind, Vitor Pereira, at the helm of Wolves, was leading them to the worst ever points tally of any Premier League team of all time. They have improved drastically since Rob Edwards has come in. And I do mean drastically. They have moved from a 0% win rate to something that was like 17 or something the last time I checked. And they have had another win since that. So Vitor Pereira, in his genius, has decided the Europa League is important, but the Premier League is very important for the club, which is fair because it is very important for the club. But it's the way he's saying it. He's saying it kind of like, the Europa League's important, but it's not really. We're going to be focusing on the league. And while I understand the want to focus on the league, you can't really bin off the Europa when you're Nottingham Forest. So he is already looking ahead to Sunday's Premier League fixture against Spurs. Might I remind you, they don't play till this evening. Are they playing right now? Let me check. Have they started yet? I don't know what time which matches kick off, so let me see. So yes, Forest have kicked off. To be fair, they're nearly over. They are currently 2-1 up against Midtjylland, which is obviously quite good for them. But I mean, he wasn't too bothered really if they won or not. So let's go back to what he said. Now obviously this is before the match, okay? So let's have a look here. Let's play him. And again, just let me know if there's any problems with the sound.
For me, it's a pity that our situation on the league, and because we need to compete with Premier League. The games, they are very tough. The level of the teams they are competing for and the next game is against Tottenham, and Tottenham is competing with us for the same target as to achieve to be safe in the Premier League. It means that for me it's a pity that I need to have decisions. I need to think not just about this game, but about the next 2 games. I need to think about it because it's important for the club. Of course, the Europa League is important for the club, but the league is very important for the club. For me, it's a pity that our situation on the league, and because we need to compete with Premier League. The games, they are very tough. The level of
I didn't realise he had restarted. But this is a really good example of where the quote doesn't necessarily match the spirit of what he said. So this quote is correct. He did say this. These words came out of his mouth. But when you take away the context, they lose the meaning of what he was trying to say. Do you know what I mean? And I see Aaron is in the house, so welcome to Aaron, and is following it up with, I think he has been told this by the owner, Marinakis, and to be fair, himself and Marinakis worked together before. So it's very possible that he's been told this by Marinakis. That is his priority. So you could be absolutely right there, Aaron. Inotes is reminding me, good point. Midtjylland won the first leg 1-0. So on aggregate, it's 2-2 at the minute. So good point, Inotes. Thank you for reminding me. Do you know what it is? See, when you get to the second leg, sometimes I forget there was a first leg, being honest with you. Andrew is in the house. Welcome, welcome. Everybody's saying hi to each other. Now, I have seen, and it's a really mixed reaction in the comments even for that. Like, look at this, and this is what I mean. So here's obviously this guy has Romero as his picture, but has there ever been a more cowardly manager? And then you go up, smart move by Pereira, Europa League is great, but the Premier League decides the club's future. Finally, a manager that's pushing the Premiership first. You're showing your age there, Liam, the Premiership. We've had a good run, earned a bit of money from it, time to focus on staying in the Premiership and the security of the club. Mate, he's actually saying what every Forest fan has been screaming for months: League first, Europa second. Finally, someone with a brain in the dugout. And like, there's this guy here. To be fair, it's mostly rival fans giving out to him. Just win your match from someone with a United badge. We don't need to talk about that. So yeah, have we missed the comments? Yeah. So to be fair, a lot of the Forest fans seem to think this is the best approach. This is the right thing to do. Your league is your bread and butter, and as he said, they are fighting Spurs for the same spot, and their next match is in fact Spurs, which is obviously a 6-pointer for both teams. Spurs really had, while they didn't get the result, really did have a good performance in the Champions League, so they might be going in with a bit of confidence of kind of bringing that into the league. And so obviously Vitor Pereira and his players and Marinakis will have watched that and will have gone, right, this game is going to be tough. We need to be at the races. This match could quite literally be the difference between us qualifying and not qualifying. And iNotes. It's all about perspective, isn't it? iNote says, I agree with the Forest owner. We must get Spurs relegated. I mean, that's one way of looking at it. But I suppose for me, like as a United fan, and maybe this is a little bit of the entitlement of kind of a big club sort of fan, where I go, you can't bin off Europe. Do you know what I mean? You can't do that. You can't just ignore Europe. And I suppose there is a little bit of entitlement to that, because when you listen to him explain it, it does make complete sense. Like, the league is, and I do agree with this, the league is your bread and butter. Europe is fantastic, but it's a bonus, it's the cherry, it's the icing, it's not the cake. The Premier League is the cake, and this particular game they have coming up literally could decide not only the rest of this season, but their whole season next year as well. So I do think it's interesting, and as I said, I think it shows you the difference between one sentence of a quote and then the entire quote in context, because they have two completely different meanings. If you just hear him saying it's just this and this, it doesn't sound like much. When you hear the reasoning, the explanation, the logic behind it, he sounds like less of a madman, being honest with you. And I actually think Aaron had a really good point. To be honest, the message could be coming directly from Marinakis. Sachin says, Forest look worse, barely won versus a significantly worse opposition today. Marv is saying, you love the fact that I say Vitor Pereira perfectly, but then say Sunderland. Yeah, I said both of them perfectly correctly, Marv. I don't know what you're talking about. But yes, so again, I just thought it was quite interesting, all of the different sort of things, especially considering we were talking about the coefficient earlier on today. So we will try to keep a little eye on that as we go. Try and remind me and I'll try and remember. And let me see. Andrew Wright is saying, Bob Paisley used to say league is number one. And that is true. That is true. I suppose I get a bit greedy. I want both. I always want both. My team can't get one and I want both. But I mean, you have to aim high, don't you? What is it they say? There is a saying about aiming high and falling in the stars. Something like that anyway. But yeah, you have to aim high. And Sachin is saying, I did call Tudor being good for Spurs. Happy with that, to be honest. Sachin, you and me both. We thought they needed a disciplinarian. It seemed that it wasn't working initially. It looks like it is starting to kick in. It genuinely looks like it's starting to kick in, which is really, really interesting to see that, you know, sometimes it does take a little while for things to start actually taking effect, and maybe that is now the case. But that is the end of just my interesting collage of topics following the Champions League and obviously about Nottingham Forest. As I said, it was a lot of smaller things that I thought were interesting. I didn't really want to drag out a whole hour stream on any of them, but there were things I just wanted to talk about with you guys and bring into the show. But let us now get to the crux of the show. So as I said to PFC TV, I think it was yesterday, and as I said at the start of the show today, for those who were running a little bit late, I do not intend to talk about transfers every single day of the week from now until the summer, because we're going to do that the whole way through the summer. The season is still on. It would get incredibly boring. And I have been reluctant to speak about Tonali overall because he has only recently signed a new contract. He has strong links to the likes of City. There's actually a strong possibility of him going back to Italy. I don't really see it happening, if I'm honest, so I haven't really delved into it too much because it felt a little bit something and nothing for me. Then the Bruno G stuff started, and again, I kind of at first was sort of poo-pooing it, and then I was like, I don't want to talk about it if it's just a pile of nonsense, because if we talked about every single rumour ever, about all the transfers, I literally would just be streaming 24/7. Which, to be fair, I probably do talk enough to do that, but, you know, let's not go crazy. However, I did say that if things started to feel a little bit more concrete, if there were certain transfers that felt a little bit more concrete, I would start to then talk about maybe those specific deals. And I feel like Ben Jacobs heard me. It was like, do you know when you speak into a shell on the beach and then magically the person can hear in a different shell? That's what it felt like. I feel like he heard me. So let's have a little listen to what Ben Jacobs had to say on the whole matter. Now, he was obviously speaking on the United stand. He does a weekly slot with them. It was obviously nothing to do with me, but it's just the timing of it was sensational. So let's take a little listen to Ben.
With Bruno Guimaraes, if we take it first, a very well-respected reporter has claimed that talks are advanced between Manchester United and Bruno Guimaraes. My information is that Manchester United are interested in Bruno Guimaraes, that it's been driven specifically by Jason Wilcox, and there have been some talks on the player side, but there haven't been any talks yet with Newcastle United. So I suppose it depends on how you define advanced. In my reporting, I say advanced talks after club to club has started, and when it escalates towards a direction of travel of an agreement over fee. We're nowhere near that point yet. So even if it is true that Bruno Guimaraes is assessing options and is interested in Manchester United, and as we said on the last show, Casemiro, not that he carries much weight in the recruitment, but he mentioned Bruno Guimaraes too. So there are things moving between Manchester United and Bruno Guimaraes, but several other midfielders, Manchester United are having similar conversations with as well. And remember that key point, they want two. So it's not a case of today it's Tonali, tomorrow it's Guimaraes, the next day it's Baleba. They want two. So they will have two top targets after speaking to the player camps and maybe some clubs to determine what's feasible both individually and collectively. So I'm not sure we can necessarily say, without wanting to shout down a very well-respected reporter, it's advanced in the sense of done deal, in the sense of club to club. But Manchester United and Jason Wilcox specifically have had a conversation, to my knowledge, with the Bruno Guimaraes camp, and therefore it might be one to watch.
Now, so he was quite specific there. And to be honest, he was reining it in a little bit. Now, I see Dave Boy there in the chat is saying, how many times does Jacobs get anything right? Well, to be fair, Dave Boy, if you actually listen to the clip, he's not the one saying it was advanced. In fact, he was saying it's not that advanced and that's probably a bit overreaching. He also said, look, we're looking for a number of midfielders. We're speaking to a number of midfielders at this moment in time. So he hasn't actually stated anything. He's just referring to what a different journalist has said. So I think it's a bit harsh to say, does he ever get it right, when it's not even him that's saying it. He's been asked about it by Beth and he's replied to her comment or her question. It wasn't actually his information in the first place. And Sachin is there with a really good point. Bruno G would want big wages. It would be his last contract. He is 28. And that's a really good thing, because United have made a big song and dance about reducing their wage bill. It's not something, you know, that they want to continue doing the mistakes of the past. They want to bring those numbers down. They want to be handing out big contracts, the whole lot. So I think the reason probably, and I want to go to Beth's tweet, because this would probably be the thing that made me even sort of stop and look at this at all. This is the reason actually that I've decided to bring it up in the first place. So Beth, obviously, who is of the United stand, shared this, let me show you, on her Twitter. So this here, MUFC are in advanced talks. So this here, Fernando Callas, this is the journalist that Ben Jacobs is referring to, okay? So MUFC are in advanced talks to sign Bruno G for around £70 million, but renewed interest from Real Madrid threatens to complicate the proposed move. This is via Reuters and Fernando Callas. So Beth here is saying that Fernando Callas, that journalist, is the same source that reported Bruno G's move from Lyon to Newcastle in the first place. So just to be clear, because there does seem to be some confusion about this, the United stand are not the source. The United stand haven't made up this information and decided that they want to ask about it. This has been written by a well-known journalist who covered Bruno G's initial move from Lyon to Newcastle. So it's not really a shot in the dark. It's based on somebody who has proven to have gotten it right about this specific player before. And we know that was right because he currently plays for Newcastle. Ben Jacobs was asked to comment on the other journalist's work. Do you know what I mean? So, and what he sort of said was he felt advanced was probably a little bit much. There has been contact. There has been a little bit of sort of feeling around. There has been a little bit of, you know, sussing out. But Manchester United are doing that with multiple players. But I just find it interesting. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen or, oh my God, we should just believe it. I find it interesting that the report is coming from the same reporter that reported his move to Newcastle in the first place. Because as we know, there are some people like Ben Jacobs, like Fabrizio Romano, like David Ornstein, that cover lots and lots and lots of transfers. They don't specialize in a team or, that a player or anything. They speak about everybody. Therefore, it's much harder to get it right. If somebody is more specific with specific players or specific teams and they tend to get those correct, I find that's a little bit more, as I said, just interesting. It pricks my interest a little bit more because I think, okay, maybe it's not complete made up nonsense. As I said, the Tonali one, I'm just not buying at the minute. I'm not buying it with his contract situation, with the link back to Italy, with, the other clubs that may be involved. I'm not seeing the Tonali thing. What has piqued my interest in terms of the Bruno G one is Fernando Callas. Now, it might be an absolute nothing. It might be completely a story about nothing. But I just thought it was interesting. Now, Ben Jacobs did also say, not in that clip, but Ben Jacobs did also say, and obviously this is based on a question he was asked. So he said, there is a gentleman's agreement, not that it's always legally enforceable, a verbal gentleman's agreement allowing Bruno G to explore options for clubs that have Champions League football if Newcastle United don't themselves have Champions League football. Now, the reason, again, that I sort of give this a bit of credence isn't because it's coming from Ben Jacobs. The reason that I give this credence is because it is exactly what we heard from Alexander Isak's camp last summer. Now, it's possible that they're both lying and that it's all made up and that there's no gentlemen's agreements at all. However, I think it's highly unlikely because I think throughout football, not just at Newcastle, at multiple teams, I think there are gentlemen's agreements. I think it goes on all over the place. I mean, how many times have we heard of a drama because of an agreement that hasn't been honoured? Now, obviously, the one last summer with Isak sort of took out and it really, really just, it seemed to get all the headlines for basically the entire summer. But his camp come out and basically said something similar, that there was a gentleman's agreement for him to go, and now Bruno G's camp is essentially saying something similar, that there's a non-legally enforceable verbal gentleman's agreement. And so I suppose you're looking there then at the temperament of the player. Would Bruno G be likely to behave in the manner that Isak did if that supposed agreement wasn't honoured? Does it turn into another saga, etc., etc., etc.? I would suggest, although nobody expected it from Isak, I would suggest if any of this is true, I can't imagine Bruno or any other player would want to end up in a similar position or situation that Isak did. So they will, and I can't imagine the club, Newcastle, would want to either. So I think some of the information that's coming out, I feel like it's more believable. It seems to have a bit more base in fact than the Tonali stuff, which is where I'm at with it. Now, he did, and this is the last thing I want to say from Ben Jacobs, and then I'm going to get into your comments, because I'm sure this is rubbing some people up the wrong way. And again, it is speculation. But as I said, I just feel like this one, the Bruno one, just feels like it has a little bit of something different than the Tonali one. But let's just see the last thing. Obviously, he said loads more stuff, but these are the things that I was actually interested in what he said. He said both the Tonali and Bruno camps are fighting against each other. So he's essentially saying this is why we're getting so many links and kind of rumours and stories about both of them. At the end of the January window, reports came out linking Tonali to Arsenal, although Arsenal denied it, to make it clear to the market that Tonali is exploring options if Newcastle don't get Champions League football. So again, we have this thing of Champions League football. A few months later, the Guimaraes camp is hinting at what they are doing behind the scenes. Both players are aware that if one leaves, the other won't, so they are trying to get a potential move in place before the other does. And again, this is something I've heard Ben Jacobs say on multiple occasions. He has repeatedly said that if any of them go, it won't be all of them. So we're getting all these different stories about this person's going to go, this person's going to go, half the team's going to go, the whole team's going to go. And he has sort of said, well, no, that's not what the case is going to be. It's actually going to be one of them. And so what he is saying there is, because it's only going to be one of them, their representatives are leaking this stuff out to sort of try and get their player the move first, because the other one is going to have to stay. And obviously in both cases it does seem to be linked to Champions League football, which at the moment is looking unlikely for Newcastle. Now, let me see what you guys have to say, because at the moment, and this is why I don't like to talk about all the rumours all the time, because it's very contentious and it's difficult for the fans of all the clubs involved, because none of us really know. We're all just sort of guessing. And as I said, the only reason I even am picking up on the Bruno G one rather than Tonali is I feel like they're just the specific journalist involved and the very similar comments to what Isak's camp said last summer made me just stop for a minute. Just for a minute. But let me see, as I said, what you guys are saying. Oh God, you have been chatting away. You have been chatting away. So we got Sachin about the big wages for his last contract. That was a really good point. I notes is saying soon Mama Flossie will be linked to a move to United. I know, so I've tried converting her. I've tried my best, but she is Newcastle through and through. I don't think there's any stealing her. Flossie is saying, according to Toos yesterday, we are getting Tonali. Today it's Bruno. Tomorrow is it Hull. Flossie, you will be very relieved to know that Mark Goldbridge has already expressed his certainty that Manchester United would not be able to get Lewis Hall. Although if we could, he'd be the one I would take. But yeah. And Guess is saying, advanced talks gets more clicks. Correct and right. Dave Boy is saying, if Ben Jacobs was right, we would have more players than Chelsea. Again, Ben Jacobs has repeatedly said that we're not going to get all of these players. We might get one, if any. So to be fair to him, he hasn't said we're getting loads of players. Not yet. He might do as we get closer to the summer, but he hasn't done so far. Harold is in the house and has joined us very kindly. Thank you very much, Harold, and don't you ever worry about being late. I'm always very grateful for anybody that turns up at all at any time. Aaron is reminding all of you lovely lot to please hit the like button. Please do that. Dave Boy is letting Harold know that he wanted Bodo to go further, and I think we can all echo that sentiment. Dave Boy is saying the United dressing room would be interesting. I'm Bruno, and the handbags at dawn would come out. Very, very interesting. Sachin would like to know what is wrong with our legends at Manchester United. How can they have such terrible takes, such as those re Neymar? I'll be honest with you, I don't know what's wrong with our legends, because honestly, I think they're damaging their own legacies. Obviously, you can never undo their footballing achievements, but you know, when you like somebody less, you admire them less. I just think they need to shut up a little bit sometimes. I don't know what's wrong with them, to be honest with you. I suppose it's probably as well having the same conversation over and over and over and over and over again. And I'm sure that happens, you know, when you're seeing the same content like that. I'm sure for Flossie it's very frustrating, because multiple channels, multiple times a day, are talking about all of her players are going to be sold to left, right and centre. They're going to all the teams and every team, so they're going to clone them so everybody can buy them. And I'm sure that does get frustrating, do you know what I mean? But I think it has to be the same for the people talking about the stuff. So see, like that, when they do this many podcasts and they have to do it on schedule every week, every day, they have to come up with topics, and sometimes I think they run out of topics and so they just say things, and that's being honest with you. But you don't know, maybe they really think it. Aaron is saying, that worked out well for Isak. Get it in writing. These gentlemen's agreements aren't binding. I do think the gentlemen's agreements will be done away with into the future. And as I said, it's certainly not only Newcastle. All the teams have been doing this. 100% guaranteed all of the teams have been doing this, and not just in the Premier League. But I do think what happened with Isak last summer probably highlighted to the fact that it's sort of an outdated modus operandi now. The world has changed, and the way they operate in terms of contracts, negotiations, agreements probably has to change too for everybody. Nathan is in the house, has made it to a live show, missed the earlier one, was very disappointed, so I am glad that you are here for this one. Let me see. What else are we saying? I've scrolled too far. Oh my goodness, I've scrolled way far. I didn't mean to do that. Dave boy, you're like a dog with a bone. Sachin says, I can see both of them going abroad, to be honest. The thing is, I probably do agree with Ben Jacobs there. I don't see both of them moving. I think it's going to be one or the other. Let me see. Flossie is currently on strike to get her move, says Aaron. Fabrizio Romano would surely be watching this stream. Our stream, do you mean? Or Ben Jacobs? He might be. You never know, Fabrizio. Flossie is going to start supporting the Blythe. How do I say that? Blythe Spartans? Like Enid Blythe. So Blythe Spartans. Excellent. I'm so good at pronouncing words. I would just like to let everybody know English is my first language, just so we're all aware. I know sometimes I hide it well, but Harold, and I agree with this. I don't care who comes in, only if the individual is the right fit, not who the individual is. Correct and right, Harold. I completely, wholeheartedly agree with that. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, Aaron's telling me I'm correct, which is always wonderful, because when am I not correct? But lads, that is about all the time I'm going to spend on it. I wanted to talk about it because, as I said, for those specific reasons, but that is about the height that I'm going to talk about it. Unless something groundbreakingly new comes out about that, I'm not going to be talking about it again. And that's my thing. I am not now going to talk about this tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. Something come out that I felt was sort of significant. We've talked about it. That's it. We're not talking about it again unless something actually bloody happens. Because otherwise, every show was going to be, do you remember the thing we said yesterday? Still true. End of show. We can't be having that. Wilsey is in the house, and actually, I have genuinely just been waiting and stalling so Wills would be here in time, because, lads, this is the prediction show. We're not going to be live tomorrow for a long 3-hour show with Kai from behind the dugouts. The reason for that is because Manchester United play tomorrow. And we can't possibly be here when Man United are playing, because I'll be watching them. So there will be a stream tomorrow, but it will be 7 o'clock until 8 o'clock, which means I will be flying solo. So God knows what we're going to be talking about. But it also means we have to do the predictions tonight. Ultra. Do you know what it is? I said the word predictions, Ultra and Wills arrived. That's what it is. They sensed it. They knew it was coming. So I am glad I have all of you here to help me, because let's face it, lads, I can't be left to my own devices on the predictions. I'm not very good at them. They're not my forte. I'm good at some things. Predicting the future is not one of them, or I would have won the lotto already. Let me see. iNotes. Look at the clickbait title. Yeah, I'll be honest. iNotes. I stepped away from the channel you referred to last year, probably about October time, and I've never looked back. It was the best decision I ever made. So I am right there with you, iNotes. But let's get the most important thing on the screen, which is the predictor machine. You will see one of them is shaded out. We're not allowed to predict it. That is because it took place on the 18th of February 2026. It's already happened. You will see here, Man City and Crystal Palace are still in here, but obviously they're not going to be playing their match because the final is on, so City won't be playing, but it's probably not going to let us predict anything without putting that in, is it? So we might just have to make one up. You're very welcome, Wills. I have been waiting, I've been waiting for you specifically. But let us get stuck into it. So let's get the table pulled up so we sort of know what we're talking about, lads. What happens? I press buttons and everything disappears. I don't want this competition. I would like the Premier League, if you please. So this is the Premier League as it stands. That should be big enough for you all to see. So we'll flick sort of back and forth. Obviously, the first match is tomorrow night. That is Man United and Bournemouth. Bournemouth are at home. So Bournemouth and Man United, Bournemouth are at home. It's not going to be at 9 o'clock. That is a lie. It will be at 8 o'clock. So what do we reckon? Bournemouth, Man United, people. What are our guesses? What are our predictions? Get them into the comments. Guess is off to a very good start by stating Man United are going to win. I hope so. Yes, Nathan, yes, it is going on. And do you know what? I had it, that's where we went wrong. I had it on the score. It is still 2-1 to Forest. Aston Villa is until tomorrow. So thank you for reminding me. So yes, they are now into their extra time because the aggregate score is 2-2. So that is right. Thank you for reminding me. We had it up and then I confused myself. But here we are. So Marv is saying Bournemouth play better at home, but 3-2 United. Dave Boy is saying 3-1 United. iNotes is saying 2-1 United. Danny is in the house. Danny is from the lovely Kate and Jimbo channel. We were chatting on the charity stream there. God, that was a few weeks ago now. That was fast. So welcome, Danny, to the channel and the chat. You are just in time for our Premier League predictions if you want to join in. If not, please observe the madness. Wills is saying 2-0 United. And Ultra says over 1.5. So your bet, your leg for that bet is up already. Good job, Ultra. Guess is saying she likes the sound of 3-1. So we might have a revised vote from Guess. Nathan is saying 1-0 or 2-1 United. Don't fail my Carrick ball. Sachin with the dose of reality is saying 1-1. It's a tough place to go and they are good defensively of late. I am not going to underestimate Bournemouth. I think they're a good team. I think they've had a good season. I think overall they've performed really well. And as Sachin said, it is a tough place to go. United are away. So I'm not underestimating Bournemouth. However, I just feel Man United are doing well. And do you know what? While I'm not a mad one for individual awards, it does seem to be buoying the team a little bit that Bruno Fernandes is on track to break this assist record in the Premier League. He currently has 16. He needs to get 20 equals the record. So he needs to get more than 20. And while again, I'm not that interested in personal awards, if it's something that is motivating the team and creating a bit of camaraderie, a bit of a joke in the dressing room, something that, you know, just something to latch on to and is creating a bit of positivity, I'm definitely all for that. So I reckon I would probably go along with a 3-1. I would probably go along with a 3-1 to Man United, and that does seem to be the popular score within the chat. However, I have noted Sachin's alternative score. So let's go with that. Yes. Thank you, Sachin. The last game away at the Hammers did not go well. Do not have a lot of confidence like the others as all. No, Sachin, you absolutely... I love that we're getting different. Like, if we all just said the same thing, it would be so boring. So I love that you go a little bit different sometimes. And to be fair, you have a different perspective than the rest of us. So I value that. I like it. Never ever be sorry, though. You tell us what you think, and you are more than welcome to do so. However, I am going to go with the populist opinion. Now, I'm going to skip this one for the minute and see if it'll let me calculate it without it. But I mean... like, I don't know how that's going to work. I've clicked the wrong thing. Like, it's postponed, obviously, because of the cup. So I just don't understand. And then obviously it means poor Crystal Palace don't get a match either. But yeah, we'll skip that for the minute and see if it let us calculate without it. If not, we might just have to put in a little draw just to make it calculate. So we're skipping City Palace because it's postponed. And we are going to Brighton and Liverpool. What do we reckon to that one? So Liverpool coming off the back of 4-0 against Galatasaray. Brighton have been so up and down. Nathan, yes, Lou and technology is not a good combo, but to be fair, this one isn't my fault. It's the site itself. So I think what they want us to do is push in the score we think is going to happen whenever this match takes place. So it's not going to take place this weekend, but I think they're going to want a prediction for when it does happen. But we're skipping it for now. So at the minute we're doing Brighton and Liverpool. And iNotes is in there and he is saying 3-2 Liverpool. And don't worry, I won't tell Hassam. I won't tell Hassam you've backed Liverpool because you'd never hear the end of it. Sachin is saying they're a Jekyll and Hyde team, hard to predict. 2-0 Brighton or 2-0 Liverpool, depending on which team turns up, and that's probably pretty accurate. Nathan says 2-1 Brighton. Wills is saying 2-1 Liverpool. Dave Boy says 2-1 Brighton. They're inconsistent and they played midweek. Marv is saying 2-2 draw. And Guess is letting us know she just wants Liverpool to lose. So as we can see there from such a mixed prediction, it's both teams. Like Brighton have had a very mixed season, as have Liverpool. I think Liverpool are going to be a little bit buoyed from that win, against Galatasaray. I think they're going to be a bit buoyed. I think Salah had a very good second half. So if he can use that as a bit of a platform, I also think Ekitike had his best match that he's had for Liverpool in weeks. And Arne Slot did start Rio, not in the last match, in the one before that, who's a really, really good player for them and really attacking. Obviously, Szoboszlai has just been very good all season. I think Liverpool might have a good run in. I think Liverpool might do well for the rest of the season. Now, obviously, I prefer if they lose because I don't want them up our backside for a Champions League spot. But my prediction is I think Liverpool win, and I think that one could be another 3-1. I think it could be another 3-1 if I'm honest. That's what I would be going. So let's see what is iNotes. My predictions are never right anyway. Yeah, me either. I think my predictions are literally never right. Nathan says if they don't ban the Brighton fans, then Brighton will win. Sorry, Liverpool fans. I don't know if Aaron's still here. Oh dear. Right, what have you guys said? So iNotes have said Liverpool. Wills has said Liverpool. Sachin is undecided. Nathan says Brighton. And Dave Boy says Brighton. And Marv says a draw, which I think makes me the deciding vote. And I reckon Liverpool. I would love to be wrong on this one. I reckon Liverpool. But the scores are very close there. There's a lot of 2-1s. So let's go with 2-1. Okay, that brings us to Fulham and Burnley. This game could either be really good with loads of goals or it could be complete and utter dross. Now, what I want to look at is Burnley. Now, let's just update that. Is that still going? Still 2-1 there. They're going to penalties. It's half time of extra time. They are going to penalties, lads. But let's go back to the standings. Burnley are, so Fulham is there in 11th, okay, they're on the same points as Bournemouth, they're only behind them by literally 1 goal difference. If Fulham were to win and we do beat Bournemouth, they would go above them. And who are Newcastle playing? Newcastle playing Sunderland. Oh, that's going to be a good one, isn't it? So, yeah, but there's Burnley. Burnley are only 3 points ahead of Wolves at the minute, and Wolves are really having a grandstand finish to the season. So Burnley are going to want them points, because essentially Wolves are 1 win away from them, and they're not drastically different on goal difference either. So obviously Wolves are not going to want to finish bottom. They know they're being relegated. Their motivation is not to be bottom. Burnley probably aren't going to catch West Ham, but they want to stay ahead of Wolves, so they're very motivated. Fulham are also going to be very motivated. They are going to hope that we beat Bournemouth and that Newcastle slip up in their derby. If that was the case, Fulham could even go ahead of Everton if Everton didn't get a result. So 3 points could move them up 3 spots in the table, so that's massive. So that could end up being a really, really good game at the end of the season. It could also just be dross. And to be fair, some of the scores last weekend were dross. So let me see what you guys are saying while I try and talk myself into an actual result. iNotes is saying 2-1 Fulham. Sachin is saying 3-2 Fulham as well, with Burnley getting robbed by VAR again. They got so robbed. Who was it they were playing? Who was it they've played? And it was Bournemouth they played, and they got absolutely, just completely robbed. Dave Boy is saying he reckons it's going to be dross 1-0 to Fulham. Wills is saying a thrilling 0-0 for him. And Nathan says Sar has scored. It's now 2-1 aggregate, or 3-2 aggregate. Why is that not here? Can't see it. Aggregate is still showing as 2-2 for me. It could be just a little bit delayed. So I'll come back to that now in a little second. It could be just delayed for me. Brentford, thank you, Sachin. Marv is saying 1-1 draw. Nathan is saying 2-0 to Fulham. So we have Fulham, and 2 draws. I reckon, what do I think? Palace are ahead. And to be fair, Nathan does say in his comment, Palace are now 2-1 ahead. But I'm so focused on Forest, I forgot all about Palace. Palace, who should be right here. Where are they? Am I missed? There they are. Just poor Palace. I keep forgetting about them completely. Well, that's good. At least Palace are doing something for us. At least Palace are giving it socks. Thank you, Nathan, because I just didn't read your full first comment, and Sachin. I just wasn't paying attention. And they say women can multitask. I think that's a lie. That, or I was absent the day they handed out that little gem because I can't multitask. Not to save my life. But, lads, yous all went for Fulham. So not all yous, but Fulham was the populist vote. So what are we going? 2-1, 1-0, 3-2. So there's a lot of people saying it's going to be a 1 goal difference. A few of you are saying it's going to be a bit dross. So I reckon if we go with a 2-1 to Fulham is what you guys reckon, more or less. I probably, if I was guessing, I think that could end up being a 1-1. That's what I reckon that one might end up. But it could really go anyway. It just depends if the teams actually really turn up on the day and who wants it more on their position in the league. Next, we have a really interesting one. Everton and Chelsea. This one could be really interesting. I reckon that's going to be a really good game to watch. That's going to be a good game to watch. Everton, Chelsea. What do we reckon to that one, folks? I keep clicking the wrong window. So, Chelsea are up here in 6th. They're on 48 points. Everton are in 8th. If Everton win that, they would go to 46. They would only be 2 points behind Chelsea if they beat them. Chelsea have been so erratic. They've been so up and down. I think Everton. I don't know now, I might be wrong. Chelsea might just turn up. But it just feels like the wheels have come off a little bit. I reckon Everton, I don't know what it is. I might be completely wrong. That could be a draw. That one could be a score draw. That could be something like a 2-2. Could be something like a 2-2. But Everton are doing well. I might maybe go 2-2. Everton could win. I might go 2-2. That would be my guess. But it could go any way at all, which obviously makes it more interesting. But let me see what you guys are saying. Sachin is saying Toffees win 2-0 and die masterclass. Wills is saying 2-1 Everton. Sorry, iNotes, but I think Champions League loss will affect your team a little and Everton are playing well. Dave Boy is saying Chelsea are the hardest team to predict. They can be really good or terrible. And to be fair, that very true. Sachin says, I can see Everton finishing above Liverpool. That would be interesting. Nathan agrees this could be close. Rosenior, the novelist, to do a masterclass. 2-1 Everton. Dave Boy says 3-1 Chelsea. And iNotes is saying Everton always collapse against us for some reason. We will win 2-1. Backing your team. Chelsea 2-1 says guess. So we have 1, 2, 3 for Chelsea. And we have, oh bugger, I went way too far. And we have 1, 2, 3, because Nathan said it as well. So we have 3 and 3, and I said a draw. So Marv also said a draw with me. God damn it. So with 3, 3 and 2 draws. Right, so I am going to have to be the tiebreaker. If I had to pick a winner, I would go for Everton. I reckon it's going to be a draw, but if I had to pick a winner, I would go for Everton. Obviously, we all reckon it's going to be close. We all reckon there's going to be goals. So I reckon if we go, there's a lot of 2-1s in there, one way or the other. So if we go for a 2-1, but this really, really could go completely the other direction. It's very hard to know. Flossie's in the house. Flossie says 2-1 Everton. Excellent stuff. Thank you, Flossie. Sachin is saying Forest are really time wasting. This is a new low for Premier League teams, to be honest. Dave Boy is saying Arsenal and Spurs are agreeing. So that brings us to Leeds and Brentford. Again, there's so many interesting matches. They're all interesting at the minute because all of the teams seem to be doing their best for like a last run. So, Leeds, Brentford. What do we reckon, people? Ellen Road is a hard place to go. Brentford have been very good this season. Oh, that could be good. I get myself so excited. I think all these matches are going to be great. They're going to be hard fought and so close and loads of goals. And then we get to it and it's like, nothing like that. I've just gone for a draw every single time. I just keep saying draw. I can't just keep drawing. Where are they? Let's have a look at them. Where are they in the table? That's the wrong one. So we want Brentford and we want Leeds. Brentford are up here in 7th. Like, if Chelsea do stumble against Everton, they're not going to beat their goal difference, but they could go level on points. And then we have Leeds, who are going to be doing their best not to fall into this relegation battle. They're going to want to keep some daylight. I think that's going to be a hard match. There's so many good matches now at the minute. I'm just going to update these scores and then I will go to the chat. So nothing has changed here. And Palace, they're still going. No changes to the scores there, since I keep forgetting about them, bless them. Now, Dave Boy says 2-2. Marv reckons 2-1 to Brentford. Sachin reckons 1-0 to Leeds. Brentford have lost a bit of steam recently and they're not looking as good. Then who came after Sachin? Nathan says, I want Leeds to be relegated. Let's go the Bees. Brentford 2-0. I notes is saying 2-2. Wills is saying 1-0 Brentford. And we've read what Sachin said. So we have draw Brentford, Leeds, Brentford, draw Brentford. So that leaves us with Brentford. Let's go for 2-1 Brentford. What I would say is, I keep going the wrong way. Not just because he's Irish, but I reckon this man here, Caoimhín Kelleher, could be the difference. I think he could be the difference. I reckon Brentford. For me, I reckon Brentford. I reckon that could be like a 3-2. That one could be crazy. That one could be, although, do I see Caoimhín Kelleher conceding 2 goals? I don't. I don't see him conceding 3 goals from Leeds. I would probably go so far as to say maybe 3-1 Brentford, but I'll stick with 2-1 Brentford for my prediction. And just so I'm going on the record, because you guys are all... Oh, I know. His first name is Caoimhín Kelleher. That's how you pronounce that. Like the female version is Quiva or Kiva. And so for his, it's Caoimhín. And what it would mean is like, in means like, see the I fada N is the in sound. And it's like young. So it would be normally if the parent has the same name, Caoimhín would be like young Quiva. Do you know what I mean? So that's where that comes from. There's a little Irish lesson thrown into it for you. Bless him, it's definitely not queefing. It's queeving. Bless him. The MH in Irish makes a V sound because in Irish the letter V doesn't exist. So, now that we've covered our Irish lesson, let's move on to Newcastle and Sunderland. This one is going to be a massive match for Newcastle. I also think it's going to be a massive match for Eddie Howe. Because there have been some questions. Not loud ones, not consistent ones, but some murmurs. And then obviously that game, that second leg against Barcelona, that has to have just demolished him. Like, it has to be like, that has to be so hard. Just as a human being, that has to be hard. Sachin is saying, offside called on Yates' goal. The game is getting spicy. Newcastle, Sunderland. Get your score predictions in for that one, guys. Where are we here? So there is Newcastle in 9th. And Sunderland have really, really dropped down the table. Considering where they were kind of for the first maybe third of the season, they've really, really started to drop. A lot of that was during Xhaka's injury. He is now back. Just seems to have, the wheels have fallen off a little bit. But Newcastle had such a hard time in Europe. That has to get into your head. I reckon Newcastle will win. I reckon they'll bounce back against Sunderland. I reckon that one could be... What could that one be? I don't see Newcastle scoring loads of goals, but I do see them winning. If Anthony Gordon has a good match, that could be a 2-0, you know. That could be a 2-0 to Newcastle. Maybe. I think that's what I'm going with. I think I'm going 2-0 Newcastle. So let me see. Offside was called, says Sachin. We might get a penalty shootout. So, Dave Boy is saying Sunderland 3-0, Voltamata 3 cracking own goals. Dave Boy, you're in dangerous territory. Nathan reckons Newcastle still has better quality than Sunderland, 2-0 to Newcastle. Sachin says 0-0. Hard to say with Sunderland dropping off and Newcastle having so many injuries. That's true, there is a lot of injuries, and obviously the battering by Barcelona. So he reckons 0-0. iNote says 1-1, and by that I mean red cards. Flossie says Big Joe is sure to get carded. Will's you turncoat. Will says 2-1 Sunderland. Sorry, Flossie. They will be up for it, and Newcastle players will be tired. They've played so many games. Until right now, more games than anybody else. So then Marv is saying 2-1 to Newcastle. Away the lads. Flossie says they're at home, so she is confident. And Guess is saying Newcastle for the win. So let us look. I reckon Newcastle. I agree with the fact that they might be tired. I just think sometimes the bounce back, that need to just erase the bad result from your memory, sometimes that is enough to carry you through. So Dave Boy reckons Sunderland. So we've Sunderland, Newcastle, draw. Newcastle, and I've said Newcastle. So that makes it Newcastle. So 2-1. There's a few 2-1s, not very high scoring. Okay, so let's go 2-1. Nathan, the Forest game has gone to penalties. Jesus Christ, lads. Think of the rest of us. Never mind that yous want to stay in the Premier League and yous have a big match the weekend. Never mind that silly carrying on. What is this for? Why is there VAR here? Why is this flashing VAR at me, lads? Who's watching the Crystal Palace one? And why am I seeing flashes of VAR? Commentary, what have they got to say? So the Larnaca player got a yellow card for a bad foul. Are they checking if this is going to be a red? Maybe that's what they're checking, because he's only got that, and look at the minute. So are they checking if that's going to be a red? Let me know. This is great. It's like, you know, everybody's watching all the different matches and feeding us the information while we guess all of the wrong scores for the rest of the week. I love this channel and I love this chat so much. Yous really do give me such a giggle. I do. I really, really love it. Let me see. I can't watch the pens, Sachin. I can't watch the pens because the room that I am in, it's like a wee box room in my house where everything gets shoved into. So I have my computer in here. I don't have a TV. That's why I haven't done any watch-alongs, because I can't actually... Let me see if we can... Bear with me, lads. Bear with me. I'm sure this is making for absolutely great streaming. But if you guys get started in there on Aston Villa, West Ham predictions, Aston Villa have, of course, falling off a cliff. They are on their way out of the top 5. they might prioritise European football. They might go completely the other way to Nottingham Forest, and they might prioritise the football. And to be fair, it is something that I could see Emery doing. West Ham, they're a very unpredictable team. I reckon West Ham could beat Villa. My shout for that one is West Ham could beat Villa. Someone looks very sad. Did they miss a penalty? I might be a little bit behind. So, yeah, I think I'm a little bit behind here because obviously it's not on my TV. But we'll see how it goes. We'll see if I can keep a track of it. But, yes. Wills is saying 1-1, which could be fair. That could be the one. Marv says Villa are sinking like a brick, 2-2. So we've 2 draws in so far. What do I think? Do I think Villa? Guess is saying 2-1 to Villa. Sachin says Midtjylland got to the end where their fans are the loudest. Okay, so that's right. I understand now. I understand that because I come in halfway through that. I can see this going bad for Forest, but it's Ortega on goal, so I don't know. Well, we're going to watch it together. We're going to watch it and stream and predict all at the same time because obviously I have been proven to be absolutely wonderful at multitasking. So I'm going to do some more of it. You will have to bear with me, lads, because this could go any way at all. iNotes is going with Guess and saying 2-1 Villa. Sachin is saying 1-1 draw. Nathan says 1-1 because Villa will be tired. They are playing currently. This is true and they are dropping up. I genuinely believe Villa are going to prioritise European football. That's what I think. I think they're going to take completely the opposite approach. They can see they're coming out of the top 5. They can see they're coming out of the Champions League spots. I think they are going to do their damnedest in the European stage, and that might lead them to sacrificing some points, not purposely, but through tiredness in the Premier League. West Ham, what is West Ham's last few games like? Because West Ham are going to be highly motivated. West Ham are only in the relegation zone by goal difference. I reckon West Ham, you know. I do. I reckon West Ham. I reckon that one is going to be 2-1 to West Ham. And I have just live talked my way through. So, let's go back to yours. And Luke Watts is saying Emery likes a European trophy. That's it. And he's been a wee bit grumpy lately. So, yeah, maybe that'd cheer him up if he was able to win something there. So you guys have said, let's go through them. So we had a draw and a draw from Wills and Marv. Then we had a 2-1 Villa for Guess and a 2-1 Villa for... Oh no, Dave Boy says 2-1 for West Ham. Okay, so we've 2 draws, a Villa and a West Ham, another Villa and another draw. So that's 3 draws, 4 draws. Lads, I think we're going for a draw. 1-1, let's just see. Yeah, so penalty number 1 is in. It is 1-0 on the penalties. Forest have gone first and they have scored their penalty. So that was Gibbs White, wasn't it? The Denmark team. Oh, you're a little bit ahead of me, Nathan. You're a wee bit ahead of me. I was like, why haven't I seen this? But yous are ahead of me because yous are watching it properly and I'm not. So yeah, okay, that's fine. So, Spurs, Forest. Now, based on the quotes we had earlier from Vitor Pereira and how they're going to be prioritising this match over Europe, as we are seeing. However, they have just had to play not only an entire match, but 30 minutes of extra time. Oh, that was a bad miss. He literally kicked it into the post. Oof, That was Cho's one. No. You guys keep writing. It's completely fine. I don't mind. I know I'm a little bit behind. It's not a spoiler at all. Use belt away because you are keeping the chat up to date. So don't worry about that. Just straight off the post. No, guys, don't worry about it. Not at all. But yeah, so Forest, while they are now... Oh, and Chris has snuck in late. We're going to need a late step. You're right. A late step just for you. Wills, don't you worry about it. Never call yourself late ever again. We've got Chris in here. I love it. To be fair, lads, I'm late for everything. So I can't complain at all. I'm never going to feel bad. 2-1. 2-1 on the penalties to Nottingham Forest. So, they're going to be tired. But also, if they win this match, it is going to give them a little bit of a boost. And it's a match that their manager, and likely therefore their owner, is prioritising. Spurs, other than 15 minutes of madness at the start of the first leg, I think Spurs did really, really well in Europe. And I think Tudor is starting to have an effect. I think this is going to be a really hard match to predict. And I think both teams are absolutely going to go for it. I can see there. I see you saying the second one hit the post as well. Oh, and the same post. Oh my goodness me. And you know what it was? If you were trying to hit the post, you couldn't. So Midtjylland have hit the post twice. 2 penalties in a row. Midtjylland have hit the left post. Forest have scored their first 2. And Nathan is letting us know they've scored the third one, have they? Have they scored the third one? Flossie is saying we need a bigger naughty step. We do indeed, to fit all of the naughty children on it. But does this impact your score predictions for Nottingham Forest Spurs? The timing of this is spectacular. Well done to this lot for timing that so well. Because honestly, this has a big impact on our predictions. This is great. I love this. So yeah, there it is. Number 3 for Forest in the back of the net. Forest go through having scored their first 3 penalties because Midtjylland missed both penalties. Both penalties missed. So there we are. And that was a nice one. That last one was a nice penalty as well. Well done. So Forest are now through. Forest are through. What way does that leave it for their game against Spurs? They're going to be tired, but they're going to be buoyed. They're prioritising the Premier League, but I think Igor Tudor is starting to get through to the Spurs players. I think they did really well. They equipped themselves well in... Oh my God, they've missed the third one. Wow. That. Oh goodness, that was terrible. I'm so glad that you told me to turn that on, because I wouldn't have believed that if I hadn't seen it with my own 2 eyes. That was a really, really bad penalty shootout by Midtjylland. Oh well, good for the coefficient. Well done, Forest. So, Spurs, Forest. Good performance by Spurs, didn't get the result. Forest did get the result, but had to play an extra 30 minutes. They're going to be tired. I think Spurs win. Do you know? I think Spurs win. Do I? Am I lying to myself? What do you think? Because I don't know what I think. So let me go to your scores. We will have to scroll up a little bit. Do you know what, lads? Put in your scores again, because honestly, if they're in there, I've missed them. So whatever your scores were, put them in again. Spurs and Forest, what do you think? I can see Marv's. Spurs played really well against Madrid, and without the... Oh, Atletico. I was like, what do you mean Madrid? And then I realised, not that Madrid. And maybe without the bad start, could have won the tie. 2-1. Come on, you Spurs. iNotes is saying 2-2. This is a hard one. Wills is saying Spurs have had more rest and maybe feeling more confident. I think I have to go with I have to go with Spurs. Luke is saying 2-1 to Forest. So we have Forest, a draw, and Spurs. I reckon Spurs. Sachin said Spurs. Forest are playing their full strength team today. So there's a lot of us going with Spurs. Dave Boy says Forest with 1 R. 2-0. So Forest, Spurs, draw. So this one we're thinking could go either way. I do see you, Wills. I do see you. I'm going to read it in a minute. It's just if I get distracted again, I can't ask you to do the scores a third time. And Nathan says, come on the Cockerels, 2-1 to Spurs. Okay, I reckon we are going 2-1 to Spurs, although that one again is very, very mixed. I reckon it is going to be Spurs as well, although I do think that is going to be a hard-fought game. But I reckon Spurs. I think, although I wouldn't be astounded if Forest did win. Now, I don't think this is going to work, so I think this match won't be played. It's not going to be played this weekend. However, it will be attached to this game week. So see the way that one is like you can't update it. You can't change it. This is going to be the same if we don't fill it in this week. So obviously it's not actually going to be played this week. But because it belongs to this game week, we have to fill it in. But I don't want to because it's gonna mess with the scores. Let me see. Did it work? Did that do anything? Oh, yes, it did. Okay, so we don't have to fill that in. Excellent. Excellent. I pressed the button and it did the thing. So, Wills loves looking at this screen because he gets to see Arsenal at the top of the league. Now, United would stay in third. We would move to 4 points behind City, but obviously City would have a game in hand over us. Liverpool would be fourth, but they would be joint on points with Villa, if we were correct, obviously. Newcastle would move to ninth, if we're correct. Spurs would stay out of the relegation zone, but if we are right, West Ham would come out of the relegation zone and Nottingham Forest would go into it. So that's interesting. Wills, how have you only just noticed this? United have almost conceded twice the goals of Arsenal. Wills, we have scored and look at how many we've scored. Do you know what I mean? We haven't scored that many goals less than you. You have scored 61. We have scored 57. If we had conceded less goals, we would have been in the title race. Never mind City. The goals we were conceding was the problem. Let's not forget, Lawmans didn't start the season. Lawmans only became regular after the season was already underway. So the difference is the goals we've conceded. If we had conceded less, you better believe we'd have been throwing it back to Fergie Wenger. But yes. This is what it could look like if we're correct. In the unlikely scenario that we have got any of these correct, this is what it will look like, people. So I think that is going to be us for this evening. I will be back. I need to check something, guys. Let me just check this, because I need to know if I am going to be doing an afternoon show tomorrow. I may or may not be, because I have an appointment. When is my appointment? The appointment is at 2 p.m. Okay, so we should be good for that. So I will be live with you guys tomorrow at 12 midday if you are free. If you're not, what would you be doing? Flossie is saying, it has been reported that the head of referees in Europe has called our head for a meeting because VAR is interfering too much in games. Oof! The head of referees in Europe has called the head of the Premier League referees to a meeting because VAR is interfering too much in games. Now that is interesting. That is very, very interesting. Thank you very much to Mama Flossie for the bomba right at the end of the stream. Mama Flossie drops a bomba. We may be talking about that at 12 o'clock tomorrow, people. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you very much for getting so involved, for bringing your lovely selves to the show, for bringing all of your lovely information to the show, for being here, for smashing your like. I appreciate you all very, very much. Listen, have a lovely rest of your evening. Hopefully I will see you guys tomorrow, and that's it. That's a wrap.